All right, episode 463 is brought to you by Organifi Green Juice Powder. This is the best tasting green juice powder on the market today. It's non-GMO, it's gluten-free, it's soy-free, it's vegan, it's raw, it's got coconut, it's got ashwagandha, which is incredible mushroom. It helps to save time because if you can't make a green juice, you can just put this in water and it's the best tasting green juice powder on the market. I love it. It helps increase mental clarity, improves your health by providing nutrients, enzymes, and minerals. Helps to reduce stress. It's great for your immune system. Helps to rejuvenate your skin. It helps to detoxify your body. It's got chlorella, which is super high green protein. It's got moringa, which contains all essential amino acids. It contains spirulina, which is great for protein from a plant source. It's great in iron and calcium. It has mint, has beets, ashwagandha, coconut. It's got matcha green tea, which is super good for you to help reduce stress. It's got wheatgrass powder. This stuff is loaded with minerals. It's got turmeric, lemon. It's amazing stuff. So check that out. And we're also brought to you by earthing.com. Now, these are really cool products that you can get to plug into the grounding wire of your current existing electrical outlets in your walls. And they have sheets and they have mouse pads and they have all kinds of devices where you can actually reconnect to the ground of the earth, which helps to reduce stress. It improves your body's ability to be on its own circadian rhythm, helps to lower inflammation in the body. And this is a great way to be grounded for 8 hours of your day when you're sleeping, or maybe another 8 hours while you're working on the computer with a mouse pad. Check it out. It's awesome stuff, and I highly recommend it. So if you're interested in the Organifi Green Juice Powder or the grounding sheets, you can just go to extremehealthradio.com/463, or they're both available in our store as well. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it here on another episode of Extreme Health Radio. We are going to be having a fun conversation today with Miss Erin Porter from eatpraygetwell.com. And
that's a great name.
I know, right?
Eat, Pray. Oh, I love it.
Eat, Pray. I wanted to say like Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, of course.
But eatpraygetwell.com.
But that's what sticks out about it. That's what makes people do a double take.
A double take, right?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is episode 463, and we're going to be talking about her journey of over 25 years with chronic illness, and what she found as the root cause might, I would say, maybe shock people as the root cause of many of her illnesses, which she thought were unrelated, but they were not. So we're going to be getting into what the root cause was of her illnesses, and it should be very, very fascinating. Let's see. We broadcast 3 days a week on Monday, Tuesday, Friday. And if you guys would like to subscribe, you can do that on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, all the other platforms that are out there. You can subscribe. And like I said, if you want to listen to this page or this actual podcast, you can go to the page extremehealthradio.com/463, and you can listen right on there. And Erin Porter is the founder of Eat, Pray, Get Well. And like I said before, she had 25 years of chronic illness. And so I want to get into her whole journey of reclaiming her health, because I have to say, we've been going through health stuff. Everyone goes through health stuff. Nobody's perfect. And when you go through it, oftentimes it's really, really challenging to figure out what the heck is causing all of these issues.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. We know it well.
I know, right? And high levels of frustration are oftentimes involved. So so we're going to talk to Erin. Thank you so much, Erin, for joining us today. We really appreciate this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, excellent. So I have to start with just your story of over 25 years. You said in the email you wrote to me, you said there was chronic illnesses going on.
Yes. It took me decades. Like you said, I finally found my root cause, but it did take a long time. And I started getting sick about 6 years old, and we had moved out of our apartment that we had in the Bronx, and we moved about an hour upstate into a house. And immediately I got sick. My whole family came down with allergies. No big deal. We just thought it was maybe the different trees in upstate New York versus the city. And I got hit with pretty severe asthma and allergies, but again, no big deal. A lot of kids deal with this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It was when I was about 18, I got a job in Manhattan and moved into an apartment that had mold issues. And I want to go back a little bit. My house, actually, that I grew up in, we didn't know it at the time, but also had mold issues. You could smell it, but back in the 70s, nobody really gave it a second thought. Mm-hmm. And I think it was that second move into an apartment that had the visible mold that I really got hit, I think, pretty hard, because I got sick at about 18. And it started with a sinus infection. But that sinus infection, once I got it, it never left. I was running around Manhattan, going to the best ear, nose, and throat doctors, and being put on antibiotic after antibiotic. And through the years, those antibiotics stopped working, so I was on heavier doses. I started becoming resistant to a lot of them, and also had 4 sinus surgeries. But along that way, that long road, I started getting other issues started popping up as well. So now I wasn't just dealing with this chronic sinus infection that I could not get rid of, but then I started getting chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and heart arrhythmias, and I had reflux and restless leg and Epstein-Barr, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the things I had, but here I am. I'm a teenager, and going into my 20s, and I was so sick. And there wasn't even internet yet back then to do your research. So it was pretty tough, relied a lot on doctors that are misinformed. Mm-hmm. And I'm not against doctors. It's just that in my case, I was given so many courses of antibiotics. And now that I know a little bit better, I know what they do to our body. And I just know that that was the cause of a lot of my illnesses, because my root cause was fungus. Mm-hmm. And back in 1999, the Mayo Clinic came out with a study saying 93% of all sinus infections are fungal in nature, which means antibiotics would just make it worse.
It would just make it worse, because essentially antibiotics are a form of fungus, right?
Absolutely. So they'll fuel your fungal infection, and at the same time, they are depleting your gut of all your good bacteria. And as we know, once that happens, you can say goodbye to your good health.
Yeah. Did you have any brothers or sisters growing up?
I do. I have a sister and a brother.
And were they affected at all?
They had allergies and sometimes, strep throat and things like that, but they were not hit as hard as I was. And that's interesting as well, that some people, and they say about 25% of the population, have a T-cell deficiency, which makes you, your immune system can't fight it like other people can.
So you said they say about 25% of people, 1 out of every 4 people have that?
Yes, about 25% of the population.
How do you find out if that's an issue you're dealing with?
Well, I believe that there's a test, and I don't know, because I actually just found out about this test for the mold gene where you can actually find out. But another way to find out is if you have something like a sinus infection that is chronic and is not going away, you can pretty much guarantee that this is your issue. And so in that case, you really have to make some changes in your life and make sure your environment, test your environment and see if you have any mold issues. You have to change your diet, of course, because fungus needs sugar and carbs to survive. Mm-hmm.
So what test did you just mention can people do to find out if they have that mold? Did you just say that you don't have access to what that test was?
I did. I actually did a radio show a couple weeks ago on the Misdiagnosed Life, and she was telling me about a test for the mold gene that I was not aware of, but I'm going to look into that more because I never even heard of that before.
Interesting.
I wonder if that's part of the genetic testing of like the 23andMe, or if you have to get really specific with that.
Oh, yeah, it could be.
Interesting. I'm going to look into that too.
Yeah, we did a show with a guy by the name of Michael Schrantz on episode 438 about how to properly check for mold in your home, but
it's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. I mean, gosh, in today's culture, and especially, in warmer climates and climates that are a little bit more tropical and warm,
right?
It's very common, isn't it?
It is, and it's so easy to test. You can buy mold plates, and they're just a few dollars a piece, and you sit them out for an hour, and then you wait 5 days, and you can see if you have an issue at all. And, some people think, well, my house is so clean, it's not possible that I have a mold issue. And that's where you can be deceived, because mold can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be visible. Usually by the time it's visible, you have real problems. Right. And then there's others that think, well, I've tested my house and I don't have a mold issue, so my chronic fatigue and my sinuses, I don't think it's fungal in nature. But also the way Americans eat can also bring on fungal infections as well, or overuse of antibiotics, or too much alcohol. These are other things that can also cause systemic fungal infections.
Yeah, so it's not just environmental, it's also internal. And a lot of people today talking about yeast and candida and its relationship to mold. We've done a few shows on that. And we were talking before the show started with Doug Kaufman. I know you've been on his show, and he's been on ours on episode 428. And the whole fungus connection to cancer and other diseases, I mean, it makes so much sense, because our bodies, I mean, if you think about what cancer is, just a growth, right? And it's your body's self-composting. And the reason why it does that is because there's too much sugar contained within the organism. And so it makes so much sense to me.
It does. And I think in about 10 years, we're going to be talking about how fungus causes cancer. And right now they say cancer is caused by a genetic mutation. And if you ask, well, what causes a genetic mutation? They really don't know. But we do know that mycotoxins cause genetic mutations, and mycotoxins are the poisons, of course, that fungus spew. So it's interesting, and there's definite links. And Doug Kaufman is doing an amazing thing, and I know he just spoke in front of hundreds of oncologists around the country and teaching them about the link fungus to cancer. So he's an amazing guy, and I actually feel that he's partially responsible for me regaining my health, because I found a good doctor in 2004 who finally said, he took a look at my CAT scan and said, you have a severe fungal infection. So at that point, I had just learned everything I could on the topic of fungus to get well. And his show, Doug Kaufman's Know the Cause, is a show I came across, and that's where ultimately I learned how to eat. So
the doctor had told you that you have a huge fungal infection, and then it was after that you found Doug's show.
Correct.
Okay.
So it was probably, I had been doing my research after that for a few years, and started on antifungals, and I knew I was onto something, because probably within a year, all of those other infections that I had, and the chronic fatigue and the fibromyalgia, they all started to go away. And then I found Doug in 2007, and then I really stepped it up with my food, because I had never heard somebody talking about an antifungal diet. So along with taking antifungals, I started the antifungal diet. And I was doing fantastic, and I thought, he is really onto something here. And although I still had a stronghold, though, in my sinuses that I could not figure out, because I was doing everything right.
Now, I'm curious about the antifungal supplements and the antifungal diet. Can you explain a little bit more about both those things?
Sure. Initially, since my fungal infection was so severe, and I had bacteria as well, and I had staph and Pseudomonas, which are two bacteria that are very difficult to get rid of once you have them. But unless you get rid of the fungus, you will never get rid of the bacteria. So this doctor had me go on not just oral antifungals, prescription, but I would irrigate my sinuses with prescription antifungals as well.
Oh, okay.
And then once I finished prescription courses, there's over-the-counter. There's so many things you can take, like oil of oregano and garlic and apple cider vinegar and caprylic acid. And so to this day, I just rotate antifungals every month, and I will for life.
So how do you do that? So what does that look like in terms of rotation of those things?
So I just rotate about once a month because fungus, they're very smart, and they'll learn to work around what you're trying to knock them out with. So I'll do maybe a month of oil of oregano, and then the next month I'll change over to caprylic acid, and then the next month I'll do something different. And I've been doing this for years, and I'll continue.
So
So
like oil of oregano is so powerful, and or let's say it's a caprylic acid or apple cider vinegar or something like that, or garlic. So what does that look like? Every day you take how much and how often, and what's the protocol you're following?
Yeah, every day. And I also take something called, and I hope I'm saying it right, microchitosan, as well as something else called biofilm detox, because both bacteria and fungus have biofilm around them, like shields. So you can try to, and especially because I had such a history of Pseudomonas, which is very difficult to get rid of. So when you take your antibiotic or your antifungal, these shields, these biofilms that these fungus and bacteria create, make it difficult for you to kill them. So I'm taking that as well. And like I said, I rotate, and I might do those two for a month or so and then not do it again for 6 months.
And you're doing both of those, or are you doing all of this every single day for 1 month, right?
Every day.
Every day for a month.
Every day. And probiotics, I think, is important as well, because especially if you've been on antibiotics like I have completely depleted all of my good gut flora, so it has to be replaced.
Now,
So,
are you doing those on the opposite side of the day when you're killing fungus?
I do separate them.
Okay.
So I'll wake up in the morning, and on an empty stomach, I'll do an antifungal, followed by the biodetox, and then I'll eat breakfast, and then by lunch I'll do probiotics, and then in the evening I might do some more antifungals.
Okay. And can you share, we have so many people write in about biofilms. It's so crazy.
Hot topic.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because it's a hot topic for our show, but no one, like the average person, has no idea what a biofilm is. But
so true.
Can you share where you get these biofilm sort of destroyers?
Yes, I wish I had them in front of me right now so I could think of the company. But what I could do after the show is send you a list and what the product is and who the company is and how I take them every day, if that'll help the listeners.
Yeah. If you have, if you have a page on your website, we can link to that as well on the page, because I know people are going to be listening to this thinking, okay, I want to get on these antifungals, I want to get on these biofilm.
And you're exactly right. People write in all the time, can you please tell me what to take, when to take it? So I was about to actually release in the next couple weeks something more specific.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah. When you release that, what we'll do is we'll put a link on this page. What is it, episode 463? Mm-hmm. I think episode 463. So we'll put a link right over to whatever it is that you release, because I know people are, we get emails all the time about biofilms and how do I destroy them? Is this product good and all of that? So.
Right. Speaking of biofilm, so it was at one time, do you remember the Johnson's baby shampoo?
Yeah.
So you could put a little bit in your irrigator bottle and irrigate your sinuses with it. But that's only if you're in the early stages, it seems, especially when you have Pseudomonas.
Okay.
So if you've had it for years, it's too late to do that. But it's interesting, the different things that you can try.
What is in that Johnson's baby shampoo?
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know what's in it, but some people swear by it, and there are studies that it can get to the biofilm.
Isn't that
if you're
crazy?
early enough?
So now biofilms are they unique to fungus, or are they a part of tumor cells and things?
Yeah, bacteria as well.
Okay.
And that's why infections like I had, Pseudomonas, has a biofilm around it.
Well, it makes so much sense, right? Because your body forms this. I mean, it obviously wants to do what it's doing, and why not protect it? It's sort of like building a house and putting a security, camera on there.
Yeah, you work so hard.
Yeah. This bacteria, they want to live, and so they create this barrier to protect themselves.
Okay.
I'm so curious about the testing for the biofilm. How did you find out that was something going on with you as well?
Well, I started when I could not get rid of my Pseudomonas, and I tell you, I was on every antibiotic under the sun, and I started to become resistant to where there was no longer going to the pharmacy and picking up, amoxicillin or, one of the antibiotics that we all know. Mm-hmm. I was so far gone, I was going to compound pharmacies where they would have to create something special just for me. And it was usually IV antibiotics that they would turn into something that I could irrigate with so that I didn't have to subject my entire body with an IV. Because I was at the point where they did want to put me on IV every 8 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Of antibiotics. And I did not want to, I knew too much at that point. I did not want to do that. So they would create at compound pharmacies that same IV prescription and something that I can irrigate with. Well, guess what? Even the strongest big guns of antibiotics, and there was nothing left after these antibiotics for me. It wasn't killing the bacteria. So I started doing research because I thought there wasn't any doctor that could seem to answer that question. So then I started reading about biofilms, and I thought, well, this is interesting. Now I understand maybe why I'm not able to get rid of this. So, of course, I did the whole Johnson's Baby shampoo route and irrigated with that as well. And finally, after all these years, I am free of that bacteria, but it was a long road, and the fungus as well. But it took a lot of work.
So how do you know that you're free of the fungus and bacteria?
I'm sorry?
How do you know that? Do you see signs that in your body?
Well, yeah, and it's not just in the way I feel, but my fungus could actually be seen because, thank God, it was in my sinuses and not somewhere in, maybe my lungs, because you've probably heard this, but I had aspergillomas, and some people actually get them in their lungs, and when they're x-rayed, it looks like cancer, and that's usually the diagnosis that they'll get, is that they have cancer.
Interesting.
And there was a study recently, though, that these people that were diagnosed with cancer, it turned out to be aspergillomas, which, of course, the treatment is very different. It would be antifungals, and your prognosis is probably a lot better than if you're treated with chemotherapy, which may, again, fuel fungus. But I had these aspergillomas, which can be seen with a scope. So I actually fly to Atlanta because there's not many doctors that know how to treat this, but I did find one. And I fly there every couple months, and I get checked, and I'm clear. And this doctor in particular, Dr. Dennis up in Atlanta, I really give him credit for this last piece of my puzzle, which was helping my sinuses heal as well as the rest of my body.
That's amazing. I'm curious about how when people are diagnosed with cancer and it actually turns into this, to be this fungus, they must do a biopsy and figure that out, right?
Yes.
I would think.
And so, if I was ever in those shoes, I would ask for that to be tested for fungus as well when they do the biopsy. Mm-hmm. That's probably a smart idea.
Well, it's actually kind of scary because all of this antibiotic stuff, I mean, that's the deal with people with MRSA, is there, typically people that have taken, many, many rounds of antibiotics all throughout their life, and then all of a sudden they get MRSA or some staph infection.
Right. And that's MRSA is a strain of staph, and luckily mine was never MRSA. And after years, I was able to get rid of my staph as well. All through my pregnancy, with my son, I had staph and Pseudomonas, so I cringe to think about it, but I was on antibiotics for about 7 months of my pregnancy because they were so worried about this staph that I had in my sinuses. But now that I look back, I think, which is so silly, because it was really just in my sinuses and not in the rest of my body. So I subjected my son, but thank God he's healthy.
Wow.
Born healthy, but 7 months of antibiotics while I carried him.
My goodness.
Not good.
Does he have any gut issues or anything?
It's hard to say. Thank God he's been very healthy. He's 12 today.
Oh.
He's probably had a cold maybe 3 times in his life, but he didn't have such a good start, I would say, as far as his diet, because I was all things junk food back when I was pregnant and when I had him. So this is what I fed him, and this was his start for the first few years. But things are very different now in our house, and he's on probiotics every day, and he eats the way I eat. So he's been very healthy, no gut issues that I can see.
Now,
Awesome.
Now, what is the typical route that people go on when they have these types of issues that you had? I mean, obviously, like, you, when you first started out, you were doing the typical approach, which is tons and tons of antibiotics,
And surgery.
And surgery. Where would you be? What do people normally do who don't understand everything that you understand? What happens to them?
Well, my prognosis, if I had kept going in the direction I was and didn't have the information to go on antifungals and change my diet, I probably would have eventually gotten meningitis or erosion of the bone, into the eye, and a lot of gruesome things, dying of a super infection and things like that. So that was my future if I didn't change things. So that's why I started the website. It just makes me sad, because it is something that is pretty easy. It's hard. The food is hard. It's hard to change your diet, especially in this country, the way we eat. And it was very hard for me as well. But it's so worth it, and it's really something easy that everyone can try. So I just feel so passionate about getting the word out there. And when I was a young mother, my baby was just a couple of years old, I wrote letters to him kind of saying goodbye, because I really didn't think I was going to be around. I remember praying, please let me be around till he's in kindergarten. Let me see him get on the bus. So that's how sick I felt. That's how sick I was. I was convinced I had something that they're all missing. I had a doctor for everything. I had a cardiologist and a neurologist, and running from doctor to doctor trying to get answers, and nobody had any. So I thought, I've got cancer, I've got something. And my heart arrhythmias were scary at one point. They were going to do an ablation. And now I find out this was all from fungus. So my future was not good. My prognosis was probably not good. So it makes me even more excited to get out here and talk about it, because there's mothers out there right now that are probably going through the same thing that I did.
Well, the thing, too, is that, a lot of people might be listening to this and they might be thinking, oh, well, I don't really have a fungal issue or things like that. And, yeah, everyone has different degrees of things that they deal with, right? Like, there's different stages of cancer. There's different levels of a headache. You can have a migraine or just a mild headache. But it's pretty safe to say, from all the people we've talked to, the candida, yeast, and fungus it's kind of like the mycelium with the mushroom spores. They're everywhere, and everyone has a fungal overgrowth in their body to some degree, unless you've never been vaccinated, never had a flu shot, never eaten a gram of sugar. But that's not any of us. I
agree. And I think Doug Kaufman says it best when he says fungal until proven otherwise. So I would say, if you've been running from doctor to doctor, or you're on medications and you're not getting better, then treating yourself as if you had a fungal infection, asking your doctor if you can try an antifungal, and taking probiotics and changing your diet to an antifungal diet. And if you start to see in a couple months some of your issues clear up, like I did, you have your answer.
Yeah.
And so really people don't have anything to lose because a lot of people have been sick for years. So to try something for a month or two,
right,
that could really benefit. It's very easy.
Do you know the, some people cringe when they even hear the word antifungal, like a medication of sorts. What's different about an antifungal versus antibiotic?
Well, an antibiotic targets bacteria. The problem is they target good and bad bacteria.
They kill it all.
Which is why it takes the good bacteria out of your gut, which we need. And a lot of us know that our immune system, 80% is in our stomach, in our gut.
Right.
So, and I'm not against antibiotics because they've saved my life in an instance. Mm-hmm. So I think they're given out too easily, though, without investigating further. And then, of course, an antifungal is targeting fungus.
Are there any antifungals that can be damaging to people, or they should steer away from, in your opinion? I'm just curious.
I think that in doctors' opinions, they're not quick to hand out antifungals because they say that they can be hard on your liver. Personally, I don't believe, but I think everybody should discuss with their doctor. I do not believe, a month or two of a script of an antifungal is harmful. But again, they can talk with their doctor about that. Or if they're nervous about a prescription antifungal, there's so many antifungals in nature. There's antifungals in the foods that we eat, and then and the list that we talked about earlier.
What are some of the best antifungal foods? Because I know you mentioned caprylic acid, apple cider vinegar, and then oregano, oil of oregano. What are some foods that are antifungal? I know Doug Kaufman has a whole phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 diet system around the fungus. But in terms of food, what do you think about that?
Well, the caprylic acid is coconut oil, which is a fantastic antifungal. Mm-hmm. Berries are great, and berries are also anti-carcinogenic, which is exciting. And then, of course, garlic and onions and ginger is a great one. Olive oil. There's a lot of foods in nature. Mm-hmm.
And then when
that are antifungal.
And then when you combine those with supplements or other substances that you're taking, it could be a pretty good, powerful combination. Yeah. And
again, so what we have to get rid of is sugar and carbs because that's what fungus thrives on. And I talk about how I kept my fungus fat and happy the way I ate because
well, who doesn't?
Fast food, almost every day, or I'd eat from the vending machine at work. My diet was horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had Dr. Dominic D'Agostino on, and he was talking about the ketogenic diet. And I know that obviously Doug Kaufman's his whole approach is low sugar as well. And I mean, it seems like from every angle, people are talking about this ketogenic diet for cancer because it doesn't feed cancer cells and in turn fungal cells and things like that. And so I think the low sugar, so the idea of starving out the fungus or the cancer, and then going after them with antifungals is a nice approach. But the challenging thing is not eating too much sugar. That's really challenging, isn't it?
That was my biggest challenge in the beginning, and it's kind of how it all started because there was a point where I thought, I don't think I can do this. I can't give up sugar. I would binge on anything sugar and could never get enough. And now I realize it was the fungus. But I started creating my own recipes with the sweeteners that are okay, stevia and xylitol. So I always have desserts on hand, and that's what got me through it. So I was able to get to the other side because people think, oh, I don't think I could ever do this and give up everything. But you can still eat a lot of the same foods that you love. You just have to make them differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people are getting really creative now with the different sweeteners. There seems to be all kinds of new sweeteners on the market. We use one called monk fruit, and it's a 0 glycemic index, and it's just a powder, and you can combine that with stevia and xylitol and really make a nice tasting substance, whether it's a cookie or something like that, that just doesn't have any sugar in it, but it tastes sweet.
Yeah, it can taste just like the real thing. So it's very exciting.
The trick is, I have to say for me, stevia is tricky because that stuff is good, but it's got a weird kind of flavor. So in my experience, you kind of have to mix it with other non-sweeteners.
Yeah, personally, stevia is not my favorite. So if you go to my website, you'll see an awful lot of xylitol versus stevia. When I do use stevia, I like what you said. You might mix a little xylitol in with it. Because people usually either love or hate the taste of stevia. Xylitol, on the other hand, to me, tastes exactly like sugar. I would never know the difference.
Yeah, we get this nice green leaf stevia from a company called Vitality Herbs and Clay, and it's actually green. It's not the white stuff.
White,
yeah, and it has a different flavor, and it's really nice to mix with other sweeteners, but the white powdered stuff is really challenging for me. I can't.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not so good. But that's challenging too. I bet you have a difficult time eating out.
Well, yes and no. My family's used to it, but I pack my own bread.
There you go.
I usually have a Ziploc of my own flatbread that I bring, so I don't feel left out when we go to places where you can dip that delicious bread in the olive oil and the spices. I just have my own. And my family will usually eat my bread as well because they're on the bandwagon. They don't want to eat the junk food anymore. So, and then it's really not hard anymore because I know that I have my own desserts as soon as I get home. And I have found a way in restaurants, it's not as hard as you think. Once in a while, I'll have to pack my own little tiny salad dressing in a Tupperware. And at first it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But you have to do what you have to do for yourself to keep yourself happy or healthy.
Yeah, I agree because, we've all experienced that where we've been out at a dinner table with friends or family, and here you are sitting in the corner with your own little meal, your Ziploc bags and stuff. We've all been there, right?
Well, we still take our own meals over to family dinner.
We do that all the time.
Yeah, we make separate meals, and it's like they look at us kind of cross-eyed, but now everybody's used to it. But it's not for the weak.
And people will get used to it. Those that love you, your friends around you, they'll get used to it.
Yeah, they have
to. And they'll stick with you.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool because it's really, what you're doing is you're saying to your friends and family, like, I care about my health. I care about myself. And I'm not willing to poison myself just to have a good time. And it's really kind of like a public declaration of your own self-worth, of how you view yourself, Right.
And I don't like to ever push it on other people, though. When I'm going to gatherings, I might bring one of my desserts that I make, and then, because I love to see people's expression, they're shocked that it tastes so good.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird, but people don't expect something healthy to taste good. It's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah, one other thing I saw on your website, we forgot to mention this, and the antifungals is grapefruit, grapefruit seed extract. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that's another one I do as well.
So that's an interesting idea that you'll pick one and do it for a month. You just do it every single day, and then you switch off to another one.
Right.
I like that idea. Yeah. Now with like garlic, how do you do garlic for a month? Do you do capsules or do you do...
Capsules, and I've known some people that actually just cut up a piece of garlic and swallow it, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, the odorless garlic is a good one.
One time we did garlic shots. Have you ever done a shot of garlic juice?
Ugh. No.
Oh my gosh! Talk about
married, so
yeah. You get divorce papers the next day.
Right. We did it once. That's the key word. Once.
One time. Yeah, that was powerful.
That was pretty intense.
That was a powerful day. Garlic shots.
Yeah, I bet. I bet you lost some friends that day too.
Completely.
I wonder why they don't call anymore. I don't know what's going on. Well, that's interesting. So you're on this program now, and I see on your site underneath the "What Can I Eat" section, you have the different phases that Doug Kaufman talks about on knowthecause.com. Do you follow those phases pretty tightly these days, or what's your What's your protocol for that?
I would say about 95% of the recipes on there are phase 1 and 2. Now that I'm better, I will venture out, and once in a while I will have, cheddar cheese or something that might not be on phase 1 and 2. But as a rule, I just kind of try to stick to 1 and 2.
If you venture off, like with the cheese, do you notice any reactions?
No. I only know, and that's the thing. So once you're healthy, that doesn't mean you can't try a banana and see how you do, or some other fruit that might not be on phase 2. But if you see a reaction, you just go right back, to phase 1 and 2. And so I did the same thing, and I would just kind of venture out, and I would try a banana or try something that's not on. And if I saw a bad side effect, I wouldn't touch it again. And what seems to, my sinuses are probably still a weak spot for me. And what I notice is every once in a while, if I give into that cake or that really sugary treat, I just might wake up to a sinus infection. And that's how fast it is for me. So that really helps me stay on the straight and narrow. And it's kind of rare now that I'll go have a piece of cake, because I know what it's doing to my body. I know too much now.
Yeah, that's where you want to be, right? Because the temptations sometimes are so strong, and you walk by the pizza shop and you smell the cake and the cookie dough and the cookies and all that stuff. But when you really start learning what it does to the inside of your gut and how it's depleting your life force and how it's destroying your ability to digest food and causing inflammation and cancer and all these things, when you start understanding what the food is actually doing, it kind of gives you, at least for me, it gives me like a cerebral reason to say no that is sort of deeper than just the desire in the moment to partake of that stuff.
Definitely. And in our family, we started saying, so pretty much everything you put in your mouth is either going to contribute to cancer or fight cancer. So that's sort of a theme that the kids even think about. So how badly do you want that right now? And kids are going to cheat, and it's so much harder for kids, because it's all around them. You can send them to school with the food you packed, but the temptations are there. So it's good to just start them early on that knowledge. Otherwise, they really don't have an incentive. They're too little. They don't know enough about food.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Unless you start them early.
It's great that you're at least laying that groundwork, because, it wasn't until recently that even doctors or mainstream people even understood the connection between food and disease. And I think a lot of people today still just don't understand that, it's primarily the food we eat that's the precipitating cause to our sickness and our illness. I don't think many people understand that. I think they think that food is more like, oh, I can lose 5 or 10 pounds. I can fit into my skinny jeans. I can get, a ripped abs or something like that. But I don't think a lot of people understand that food is really everything.
They just don't. And I was one of them. I figured, hey, if it's on the market, it has to be safe for us. That was my thinking.
Yeah, me too.
I wrote something about cereal, and is it really that bad for you? And I said, we sit our children down in the morning. This is how they start their day. And most of the cereal on the market, first of all, 85% of it is targeted toward kids. And I broke it down into how many carcinogenics in that one bowl of cereal, we're feeding our children before they send them off to school. There's a few different ones. So we're sitting them down to something with ingredients, 4, 5, 6 ingredients that are known to cause cancer. And it's just crazy that the information isn't really out there. We think, how bad can this bowl of cereal be? But when you really dig into it, it's so much worse than we think.
Yeah, just a bowl of cereal, that's not, I'm not sure if you counted the milk on top of that or the cooking process too. A lot of the baked goods, or people are talking about cancer-causing carcinogens being released in baked goods and things like that. There's so many factors to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Justin and I look at each other all the time and we go, how is anyone alive? You know?
We say the same thing. How did our bodies get this far?
It's my 93-year-old grandfather. We live next door to him and his wife, and she's in her 80s, and we just cannot figure out for the life of us. I mean, on my birthday, they brought us over like a bunch of donut holes and a big chocolate chip muffin, which we unfortunately, wasted their money but threw it in the trash. But it's that kind of thing. I go, how are you 93? And how's your body even processing this stuff?
I know there's no understanding with certain people. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about this on the show. It's just that, people from previous generations are so much more robust and strong and different, gut bacteria. But it's so interesting because I'll see your grandpa, and he'll have just cake and crackers and cookies and ice cream. And there's no real regard. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, if I were to eat that, I'd be bloated up like a balloon.
Yep.
And I'd waddle out and I'd feel horrible for 3 days.
Yeah.
If you think about it, though, he probably the first half of his life, there wasn't the fast food places like there is today, and the junk food wasn't in every store where they don't even sell food. And now you can find junk food everywhere. So maybe the first half of his life, he probably ate pretty healthy.
He probably had whole foods. I mean, he was probably eating the whole dairy, none of this processed,
skim milk.
Right. It's the kids now, and it just makes me so sad that this is what they are. They're starting off with junk food, and even in some of the baby formulas, one of the first ingredients, high fructose corn syrup in infant baby, baby powder or milk. So it's just sad to see all the children that are getting diabetes and autism and ADD and all this.
Well, yeah, too, as well as childhood cancers, leukemia seems to be on the rise as well, and that's a fungal component, I think.
And we're not looking at our food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to remember. This is a good conversation, Erin, for me to remember, because sometimes it's really easy for me with my own health challenges to get really upset, about I can't do this, I can't have this, I can't, and I have to really, and if I do cheat, I feel really horrible, and I view that sometimes as a bad thing, and I have to remember it is a blessing, because we have this internal navigation, GPS saying, oh, you feel bad because X, Y, and Z. It's meant to get our bodies back on target, so it really is a blessing in the long run. It's not something that we feel like we have to, like you said, deny ourselves. We just find different ways to navigate around that, because nothing is worse than feeling bad. It's just horrible.
It is.
Right. I cheated here recently, and so, which surprised me because I'm pretty good these days.
Yeah.
But I let myself have a cheat day, and I couldn't believe how bad I felt. I was in bed by 6:30. And I had no energy to do anything. And I just thought to myself, that food that I just ate, it just wasn't really even worth it.
Yeah.
Tasted okay for the first few minutes I'm eating it. And then it isn't worth what you have to feel like after.
No.
And also, the guilt, and I talk about that on the blog too. I remember I used to feel so guilty in the beginning, about 8 years ago when I first started eating healthy, and then I would fall off the wagon for a couple of days, and I'd beat myself up over it. And nobody is ever going to do this kind of diet 100%, and you just have to give yourself the freedom. When you fall off for a day, you just say, okay, I wasn't very good, but I'm getting right back on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not a failure, because you're going to. I don't know of anybody that can be perfect every single day with everything they put in their mouth. But I know I try. Like I said, I'm probably about 95% there, but I'm never going to be 100%.
Yeah, and too, you have to have a little bit of, freedom and leeway in life. You can't just be completely, following a strict program that makes life no fun, because, we're not here for that.
Exactly.
We're not here for that.
We're not.
No, that's a good way to put that.
Wow. So you say you're about 95%. So what other symptoms did you have? Did you have digestive issues, bloating?
Oh, yes.
All of that?
Well, I didn't have bloating, but I had pretty severe reflux to where my esophagus would get burnt a couple times a year, which that pain, I'm telling you, is up there with childbirth. It's horrible. So I've had burnt my esophagus many, many times, even though I was on things like Nexium, and then I was on probably 4 or 5 Pepsids a day, Pepsid ACs, which you're supposed to take for 2 weeks, and I think I was on them for about 10 years, doing 4 and 5 a day, and still having that reflux. So my body was a mess.
Oh, my goodness. I bet you felt so, I would imagine you'd feel so relieved on one hand when you finally sort of woke up and learned about how the body works, but then also shocked and horrified of what you've done.
Yeah, and it was a really long road. Like I said, I was in my early 20s, and I'm dealing with not only just the reflux itself and burning your esophagus. You think that's bad enough, but there were days on top of that I'm also having arrhythmias that I can't control, heart arrhythmias, and then you've got the chronic fatigue, and I've had all these things hitting me at the same time, every part of my body, nerve pain, and I just look back and think, I don't know how I made it through some of those days. They were dark. So I did get very excited when I started to learn, okay, somebody gave me an answer. I've got fungus. Okay, what's fungus? Let me dig in and find out how do I kill it? So I guess always had that inside of me, kind of the detective, And it really is exciting to see how the body works and how resilient, and if you just give it what it needs,
so
how it can heal itself.
When you first learned about the fungal connection, and then you started implementing some of the ideas within that, how long was it for you to start realizing or start seeing any kind of difference at all? And was the difference a positive one? Because sometimes when people do these types of things, there's a lot of die-off, and although it's a good change, it feels bad, and so they have to kind of push through that. First of all, how long did it take for you to get any changes, and for you to realize that there's something here with this antifungal?
For me, it probably took a little bit longer because the die-off was horrible, and especially even just trying to introduce probiotics to my body would cause heart arrhythmias to become even worse.
Really?
And so I would have to back off. It seemed like I had to do everything at just a snail's pace because my body would feel it, and I would feel even worse. So I did everything very slow, and even the diet, once I started it, I told you I was such a junk food junkie. It's not like I could do that overnight. I would be good for 2 days, and then I would fall off the wagon for 2 weeks. I was so addicted to sugar.
It's probably a good thing you did that, actually, and moved in slowly.
Yeah, I started off very slow, and then started gaining momentum, and I don't know, maybe over the course of, and I'm just guessing, because it was a long time ago, but maybe it took a year to get rid of all those health issues that I had, except the sinuses. That's more recent. I've been healthy in my sinuses for a while now, but like I said, that was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. So it does take some time to recover, and it takes some time to figure out what to eat. But I would say just start somewhere, because every little thing did make a difference and bring me a little bit further and gave me an incentive to keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's the thing, is doing a little bite-sized chunks. Is what a lot of people want to do, is they just want to completely overhaul and change their diet in a matter of a few days, but they're 50, 60 years old, not realizing that, hey, I've got 50, 60 years of not just impacted matter, but 50 and 60 years of addictions and things like this, and patterns within their body. But I'm curious about when you took the probiotics, because a lot of people say, I remember this when my dad, I first got him started juicing, and he would say he would have diarrhea after he would juice because, and then he was, his first reaction was, oh, the juice is causing this digestive disturbance. I should stop juicing. So when you were taking the probiotics, what kept you taking them? What kept you believing that even though you felt more horrible taking them, what kept you taking them? Did you just know that they were good for you and stuck to that?
Researching how the body works. And like you said, their die-off is real. That's something that the body goes through. When you start to kill fungus, they want to live and they're fighting to live, and you might end up feeling worse for a while. They're also releasing their mycotoxins as they die. Mm-hmm. They're poisons, which are making you feel worse. So on one hand, you feel awful, and on the other hand, you say it's working because I feel awful.
Yeah, it's so anti what our culture thinks. Our culture just thinks, oh, if you feel bad no matter what after eating something it doesn't matter if it's healthy or not healthy. If you just feel bad, it must not be a good thing.
And you have to use your common sense. If you feel awful after eating something healthy and juicing, those foods are there for us in nature, and we're supposed to be eating them. So, it's probably die off. It's not the vegetables or fruits that you're juicing that are causing you to be ill.
Right.
But after a bowl of Captain Crunch, maybe. Common sense. Right?
Common sense. Captain Crunch. Now, I'm curious, have you done any other modalities? Like there's people with Rife machines and zappers and colonics and things like that. Have you tried anything like that?
I am on oxygen, actually, which is that's how severe my sinus infection was. Oxygen is a great detoxer, so I have one in my room, and I do it a couple times a day. And I don't know if I'll do it for life. I've been doing it probably for the past 8 months or so.
What is that? A machine that you put in your room?
I'm sorry? What
is that, like a machine that you put in your room?
Yeah, and it's through insurance, through an oxygen company. And it's in my room, and it's not only a great way to detox the mold out of your body, but it can also help kill whatever mold, is left over, fungus that is left over. So that's something that I have been doing.
Okay.
And I've done the liver detoxes, of course, especially after being on a prescription of antifungals. I did a liver detox after that.
Did you do the one where
some of the things that I've done.
Liver detox as far as like the Andreas Moritz style where you're getting the stones out and things like that?
I was on something called Ultra Clear.
Okay.
Which is, I'm not sure if it's a prescription or not, but my doctor did prescribe it for me, but it's supposed to be a fantastic liver detox. So that's the one I did.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's so many different kinds. People do the olive oil and the lemon, and then they do the liver flushes and the gallbladder flush. And I know that, like you said, Andreas Moritz has one. And then Annie Jubb from her book I forget it's called Life Food, but she's got one where she takes the malic acid from the apples to help break down the stones prior to doing the flush and enzymes and things like that. But yeah, there's lots of different ways of cleansing your organs, isn't there?
Right. Yeah, there is. There's so much information out there, so I can see why it's so confusing to people, especially if they're just hearing this for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how long have you been feeling optimal? Like, would you say you're 100% now?
Yeah, I'm at 100% right now. And it's probably been about 8 years since I've had all those health problems. My sinuses, like I said, and that's kind of a miraculous story in itself, but the pray part of my website is I was praying over my health back in 1999 because I was so sick, and I had just had a tonsillectomy and an adenoidectomy, and I said, God, please show me what is happening with my health. I had so many problems, and like you said, I didn't think that they were related. And what came over me, and I put it in my prayer journal, was Dr. Dennis, and he's the one that had just performed my surgery a couple weeks earlier. He's going to be the one to help you, and he's going to be the one to change your life. I wrote it down, and then I moved out of state, and for the next 16 years, I never really gave Dr. Dennis too much of a thought, even through all the surgeries, because I thought, how is he going to help me with heart arrhythmias? Or he's an ear, nose, and throat doctor. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to about a year ago, I'm watching TV, and I see my doctor on TV talking about fungal infections. And keep in mind, I'm about to have surgery number 5, because all of the ENTs here where I live said, you can't keep this infection in your head. We have to do the surgery. And I thought, I'm not going to be any better after the surgery. I just didn't see the point anymore of the surgeries. So I was watching TV, and here's Dr. Dennis talking about how he can get rid of the fungus outside of surgery. And most people, there's some things that they're missing, like in their environment, and they'll never get better until they address their environment. So when I saw him, I recognized him right away. This is the guy I wrote about in my journal 16 years earlier. Wow. I was so excited. I showed my husband, and my husband said, you need to go up to Atlanta. And I did. Within 2 days, I brought my journal, and I said, Dr. Dennis, I don't know if you're a Christian man, but this is what I wrote about you 16 years ago, and you're supposed to help me.
How does he react?
He said you're in the right place, and it turned out he was a Christian man. He even prayed over me while I was in there, and he said, you're severe. Your infection is severe. And he said, you are doing all the right things, with your antifungals. And he said, this is the problem, is you're not addressing your air. So he took a petri dish and tested my clothes, and it came back that I had 6-7 different types of mold on my clothes, and some of them were toxic to nerves. So, these, and here I am in the, we just bought this beautiful house, and I'm thinking, this is not possible. How can I have a mold problem? So, I went home and we tested every room, and I tested work, outside of my house. And so I started realizing, okay, I am still being hit with mold. And so we bought filters, and we bought something that is an antifungal spray, which I can give you information where to get that as well. And you can just spray your house, and you can put it in your laundry. And so we love playing with the petri dishes. And then we tested after these changes. We ripped up carpet and things like that. And we've gotten our house down to almost 0 mold count in most of the rooms. So once I did that, then my recovery was fast. And he was the one, that also prescribed the oxygen. And there was a couple other things that we did. He went in and he scraped out, all the aspergillomas that were in. I had quite a few. Mm-hmm. And finally, after that, that was the last piece of my puzzle, and I was able to recover.
Wow. That is amazing. Can you share maybe?
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, I want to hear about the sprays and the different things that you used. Maybe after the show or something, you could send some information over, and we can share that with our listeners.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a great company, Microbalance, and microbalance.com, and that's where I got many of the things for your home, even for your pets. You can spray your pets down with antifungals, and then the filters that filter out mold in your house, those are fantastic too. And then if anyone has if they're susceptible to infections, getting rid of carpet. So it's small changes, but huge in your health.
Oh yeah, carpets are a major issue. Flame retardants and beds, and there's all kinds of, it's crazy because, although, like, let's say, for example, just kind of playing around with some ideas here, let's say the flame retardants in beds don't necessarily contain mold, which they may, but let's just say, for example, they don't. But they're highly carcinogenic, right? So then you have a flame retardant in your bed that you're breathing all day, that's off-gassing, and you're breathing all night long, and that's putting a burden on your immune system. But then the mold could be in your carpet. So then now you have a burden
filled with spores, correct?
Yeah, and then you have a burdened immune system, and then now that is the immune system that gets to fight against the mold, and so it becomes this like entire lifestyle cycle that puts a greater and greater burden on people's immune systems, and eventually you just can't overcome it anymore.
And that's not something many doctors will talk about. They won't say, well, what's your environment like? Mm-hmm. Do you smell mold in your house? Do you smell mold where you work? So if you go to the doctor, that's not really something that they're going to bring up. They're not going to ask you, do you have carpet in your house and things like that. So unfortunately, we have to do a lot of our own research in order to get well.
Yeah, that episode that we did with Michael Schrantz, episode 438, I'd highly recommend it for people to listen to because he's got this really unique way of doing mold. We got turned on to him through a guy by the name of Chris Kresser, and he was working with Chris. He's kind of a prolific health guy up in San Francisco, and this guy, Michael, that we had on the show was working directly with Chris on his new home because he was having some mold issues, Chris was, in his home and up in San Francisco, and so he's got this whole protocol of how to do it, and he's really, really a unique guy. And so for those that are listening, listen to episode 438 for further information on how to properly check for mold in your home. But you're right. I mean, it's like this whole idea of these toxins environmentally that are in our mold, our paint, just everything we're doing, plastics, and it's causing this load to constantly be on your system, and your body's always got to deal with that load, right?
It is. So, and we're not going to always be able to get away from, a lot of the toxic burden in our environment. So at least we can control what we can control, and that's what we eat and what we put in our body,
right?
And in our immediate environment, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, because sometimes people can't pay all the money to have your house tested, or if it comes back and you have lots of mold in your house, you can't afford to maybe get it fixed or even to move. But what we can do is have positive thoughts, pray, and then eat well, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Right.
I mean, that's number one.
It is number one.
Yeah. Wow. So what types of things are you doing these days? Do you have anything in the works or plans for different things for your website? What kinds of things are you working on?
Yeah, I'm starting to write a book, and when I first started Eat, Pray, Get Well, it was all about recipes and what to eat and how to heal physically. And what God's showing me is He's not just interested in my physical healing, but my emotional healing as well. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more on the website now that I feel comfortable, but I did not have I had a pretty rough childhood, so I'm starting to write about that now. And also, I had a huge fear of public speaking. So for me to go on TV and to go on radio, if you would have told me I was going to be doing this a year ago, I would have said, you're ridiculous. It's never going to happen. Because I spent my entire life avoiding speaking. I even joined Toastmasters, which is where you go and you learn to talk in front of your peers and they critique you. And both times I left when it was my turn to talk. That's how scared I was. And so when I was going to be on the first TV show, I had panic attacks for days, and I prayed over it, and I said, God, I know I have to do this, but I don't know how I'm going to get through it. And, I just clung to His word, and He promises in the Bible that He'll give you the words when you need them. And so that's what I clung to. And I went on TV, and I was more comfortable than I was in my regular everyday life. And so I really see Him working in my life. And I think emotional, mental healing is equally as important. So I'm getting more into that. And that's why a lot of my recipes also come with something positive, a positive story.
Yeah.
Because it's so important to keep hope alive, especially when you're chronically ill, because it does affect every area of your life and even your relationships and your relationship even to yourself. So, it's going to be about healing all the way around. So I'm sure there's even people that maybe had a not so great childhood like myself, and maybe they're not sick, but maybe something I say will help them in that area.
Right on.
Yeah, no, it's. I know for me, personally, I had a back issue back in June at the beginning of the month, and basically had to take the entire month off. And I can understand. I mean, although it's very different, and I've heard people talk about bad backs before, but this was on a level that I had never experienced in my life, and the pain was so severe that it zapped my will. Not to live, but I knew that if life were going to be like that, I didn't want to live it. It was so bad. And that's what these things do, chronic issues. People have diseases, or it takes your will. It takes your ability to say, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to win. And this is just here as a teacher. And it just gets rid of all of that, and all you want to do is just check out. And
that's why hope, can you imagine if you had that back issue for years and you lose your hope, that's when you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was sick for so long, I was starting to get to the point that I couldn't even really imagine getting well. Wow. I thought, wow, my body's so far gone, I don't even know if I can get better. So there were really dark times, and I always believed in God, but I kind of thought, well, where are you? You know, do you care about this part of my life, or do you just care about the spiritual part of me? But I'm really grateful that now, looking back, he didn't heal me, the moment I asked, because I would have been on a much different journey, and I talked about that today on the blog. I probably would have been on a journey that helped absolutely nobody but myself.
Yeah.
And I would have continued eating my awful diet, and so there wouldn't have been an Eat, Pray, Get Well. And I love it because to me it shows that he cares about people's health, because this blog wasn't my idea. It was another prayer, asking God, what can you do with my life, about a year ago. And it was, what came over me was, you have to start this blog. So the blog is from him, and everything that's been happening since is from him. And it shows me he cares about reaching out to people and people getting this information. So
yeah, that's so good. It's who we become in the process, right?
Yeah, exactly.
More than the process or the result of the process.
Better person for having gone through everything that I went through.
Wow. So your website is Eat, Pray, Get Well.
GetWell.com.
Eat, Pray, Get
That's
Well.
such a great name.
That's awesome. So people can contact you there if people listen to this that suspect they may have some mold and fungal issues. They can contact you on there?
Sure. Yeah, my contact information is right on the website.
Awesome. I think you have a Facebook community as well, right?
I do.
Okay, so people can join that as well.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your story. What a powerful thing. Golly.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Pleasure.
Let us know when you release the book, too. Maybe we can do another one.
I sure will. Thank you.
Yeah. When will that be?
Well, I'm hoping in the next 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Let's do it again, and we'll talk about the book as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Hang on the line there really quick, Erin. I'm just going to close out the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This was episode 463. And if you could do Erin and Kate and myself a favor, if you know of anyone who is struggling with health issues and may not really have a diagnosis or don't really know what's going on with themselves, or if they already know that they have a fungal issue, please pass this show on to them. I know that this could help them, and Erin's work over there at eatpraygetwell.com could help them. So, share this information if you know of anyone who could benefit.
It's probably a lot.
Probably a lot, right? I mean, we all have fungal issues. Yeah,
man.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being in our lives. We really appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. eatpraygetwell.com.
.org.
I'm
just kidding.
MoveOn.org.
Trying to bring up, I've been searching the last few minutes of the show, trying to bring up.
What do you got for me?
A test I had with Dr. Stephen Hines.
Oh, really?
In 2000. I was going to say in 1978, but that was, I'm looking at that's my birth year. I'm trying to see what it was.
Because you did a stool sample, is that right?
Yeah, I collected stool. Isn't that fun?
And he was looking for fungus, wasn't he?
For fungus, an infection. I found my,
I'm
going to bring it up while you start talking, and I'm so curious, because I've had so much thrown at me the last few years. I haven't dealt with. I'm trying to do as much as I can.
Yeah, it's
on a limited budget, on all the stuff, and doing what I feel like is best for me. Because sometimes, in certain cases, antibiotics are recommended, and I still don't feel 100% comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. After, it's hard when you hear somebody like Erin, and you know too much. It's kind of like, oh gosh, like even some more natural-minded people will say if you have X, Y, and Z infection, the only way you're going to deal with it. But I don't know if I believe that.
Well, you know what though, is that we haven't done, because it's challenging, because with your health challenge, we really don't understand exactly what
what it is.
Like we understand that, sugar and fungus plays a role in everything, but is that the main issue or do you have other issues going on? And so we haven't done like a fully committed plan for that.
Well, here's what's not funny, but here's what's interesting too, is I remember talking with Dr. Hines and him saying whatever, because I did show positive for something. That's why I'm trying to find out what it is.
Okay.
Some sort of infection detected. But I find it interesting that I remember, I think it was more of like a parasite that I had instead of a fungus.
Okay.
And he recommended X, Y, and Z for this. And I said, okay, maybe I'll do that, but I'll first try this product I know about that's really good at getting rid of parasites.
Oh, right.
And then what was funny is my health started to morph and kind of decline, if you want to call it that. I started having more sensitivities to the sulfur-based foods.
Garlic, onion.
So there was a lot of like garlics and onions and these things. So I couldn't actually follow through with that. I became more sensitive along the way of trying to deal with the parasite, more natural. So it's like, what I like about Erin is what's cool is she's open to the process. I feel like a lot of times, like, I just look at this test from Stephen Hines. It was 2 years ago I had it, and I'm still like, okay, I'm still struggling with a lot of these issues. And sometimes I'm like, what have I done for 2 years? Well, I've done a lot for 2 years, in 2 years. And so has Erin. And sometimes it's not like you don't figure it out in a matter of 2 years. Why do we give ourselves these time frames? I think
that's the thing is we all want a quick fix. We all want to be, if we want to change our diet, it's got to be overnight. If we want to get healed, it's got to be overnight.
Yeah. And
that's the problem.
And you start to, I have to remind myself it's not up to me. It's in God's hands of like, you start thinking, oh gosh, like I'm getting older, about having kids, about feeling like my body's ready to have kids. I'm in my late 30s and I never thought I'd be at this place not having a family. But, so then you start panicking and you think, oh my gosh, now's the time to really jump on this. And it's a good reminder. But at the same time, it's like we're exactly where we're supposed to be. And it wasn't the time. For some reason, like Erin was saying, she had to go through this in order to fulfill what her role is in this life,
Right.
And I feel the same with me. And it's really funny because some people might say, well, you knew about this infection or this thing or this parasite. Like, why haven't you dealt with it?
Right.
And there's a lot of reasons why. But when you have more of a spiritual approach to things, sometimes it's just okay. It's the journey you had to gain empathy for other people and to understand that, health and mystery diagnoses or mystery illnesses are a part of a lot of the people's journey that listen to this show. And it's made me a lot more sympathetic, empathetic, and also like I used to freak out over things a lot more. If I knew something, I would just freak out and, think it was the end of the world if I had something like an infection or a parasite. And now it's like, oh, I'm still here. Yeah, you're exactly here. Where I should be,
Right.
And it's part of my journey. But I feel like that's cool you shared that thing about your back too, because these situations are things that ultimately
they take your will from you.
They do.
Like I never felt in my entire life so horrible. I mean, you went through it with me, and I've never even. I was at the gym in 2002, and I was wearing sandals, and I was doing shrugs with 65, 70-pound shrugs, barbells or dumbbells. And I balanced them on a flat bench, and I was wearing sandals at the time, looking out the window, and the thing comes down, crushes my toe. That the pain of that wasn't even 1% of what I had with my back.
That's crazy.
And I had heard people with back pain, and I just never understood it.
Yeah, you're like, you have a bad back, so
okay, his back's a little bit sore, tight,
rest it, go get a massage, go to chiropractic.
This was unlike anything. No. I couldn't even.
It was unreal.
I couldn't, if I wanted to call an ambulance, I couldn't even get horizontal. Like I couldn't do anything. And so
yeah, that was the worst thing.
I could understand like these situations, although they're all different for everybody. For some people it might be, they got their leg amputated or they have chronic disease or something. But it's like it takes your will from you. It takes your ability to feel like you have any hope. It takes all that away.
There's been dark days. I mean, you had that, and I've had really dark days too with my digestive stuff where you just think, yeah, if this is my life, I don't know if I have it in me.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt
but
that way.
But you can't do anything about it. It's not like you don't want to live, but you just
can't die.
No, you can't. Like, well, I mean, you could, but it's not the right thing.
I mean, that wasn't an option.
No.
But it's like you can't. You just have to just go through it.
Yeah.
It's just the most horrible thing. And
it is intense.
For me, it was a good month before I could walk very well. And then it was
truly.
Couple months before I can even feel like I could walk fast or take the dogs for a walk or anything like that.
Oh, it was.
And same with you though, with your health
biggest
thing.
teaching lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, my health challenges have been steady and chronic, and I'm recovering, but I still. It's interesting because it's funny hearing her story, because I know God works on my behalf. Like, I've been journaling about it. I've been writing about it, blogging about it. Like, I know God's for me, right? And I ask for these answers and stuff, and I feel like I just get little tiny pieces. And she said like 16 years went by before hers. So for me, I can't get caught up in, hey, why is God not giving me the 100% answer I'm looking for? Because I have the faith that I'm going to put this all together. It's just I'm not getting one big puzzle. I'm getting all the little pieces. And it's just taking longer than I would prefer.
That you want.
But it's not that God's not answering or giving me what I need, because I've seen miracle after miracle of things come together for me. Like someone sends an email with a story about something and I go, oh, that resonates with me. Or, something comes in the mail, or somebody, I don't know. There's things working on our behalf all the time. It's just, I think you also have to settle into the fact that we aren't in control and the timing is not our timing. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, you wrote an article about that recently, about the timing, right?
I did, yeah.
What was that called? Was that Ashes and Wings?
It's funny, you write these things and I don't even remember which one was which. Let me see.
To the Soul. If you're interested, should we tell people about your site?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Kate is blogging now on a regular basis on katestelman.com, KATESTELLMAN, katestelman.com. And
I am trying to write this stuff out, though, Yeah, it was Ashes and Wings.
It was Ashes and Wings?
Yeah, that was posted October 1st, 2016. But
yeah, it
is all about my timing versus the timing of the bigger picture and how we rise again. I compared it to the story of the phoenix, the famous story of the phoenix rising from the ashes. But it's like you cannot do anything outside of the time that is allotted for that particular story to unfold.
I know,
it's impossible.
Weird.
You cannot get outside. You can't scribble outside the lines.
Yeah. It's
just not possible.
Yeah.
But to have the hope and faith that everything is exactly as it should be. And I mean, look, if Erin hadn't have gone through this, it's always the people that go through the hardest things that have the story. I was thinking about it last night in the shower. I know we'll wrap this up, but I was thinking, gosh, if I didn't have any health challenges, would I be spiritually where I am? There's no way. No. Really? I don't think so. What would I be focused on?
But you're a seeker, though. You're on the path.
I'm a seeker, though, who I think kind of lost her way until I got hit with the health challenges. I think I could have easily gone down the road of trying to make material things make me feel better and
watching hot tub time
machine
on The Bachelor.
Well, I was going down the road of like, hey, I'm watching the Food Network channel and I need to have these parties and throw soirees and entertain and have this kind of looking perfect from the outside, making me feel better. But even when I kind of just stepped my baby toe into that world, I thought this just doesn't seem fulfilling. So yeah, I'm a seeker, but I'll tell you, you'll get real spiritual on yourself, as one of our friends said, when you have a health issue. Like, you really realize that nothing in this world matters but relationship and health. That's all.
That's it.
So had I not had this, I would say I would not be the same person I am. So
that's interesting, because for the longest time you were that way, and for a lot of times you were kind of hybrid. You're a little bit, but it seems like in recent years you've gone more towards the deeper side of life and spirituality and growth, personal development, and all of that kind of stuff. Whereas at the beginning you were that way with throwing parties and a pottery barn and shopping and
I was in the salon world where everything, you want to buy things and
everybody looks good.
Yeah, and work on your looks, and it's like none of that matters, in the end. Yeah. That stuff's okay, I still joke around, like stuff gets so heavy sometimes. I was telling my friend on the phone the other day, she said, what do you do to kind of keep out of letting yourself go too dark down the dark hole
of the content on the show.
The content on the show and what we think's really happening behind the scenes and most people aren't paying attention to. And
right.
I had to think for a second. I said, you know what? Every once in a while you have to pick up a Pottery Barn catalog You have to.
Every now and then I need some bonbons and a good reality show.
Whatever, just get out of your head, whatever that means. Like, go back to that kind of, quote, comfortable world that you felt like was a little bit more normal before you knew too much.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you don't know or that you don't care, that you keep your head in the sand like an ostrich, but it just means that, like, it's okay to bliss out a little on stupid, meaningless things.
Yeah. That's important.
I remember Barbara DeAngelis on the Hay House Summit one time said, sometimes you're all in your head and you just need to watch a hot tub scene. Like, watch The Bachelor. Just get some entertainment and have some fun. And
just gets a rippling chest and some six-pack abs.
And you're all set.
Thrown in your face.
Yep.
No, but
thrown in your face.
But that is true. It's like, I think that people in this world, I think what happens when you start really understanding what's going on in the world and that's all you focus on is you start to just become crazy.
Yeah.
You start to just go nuts because you need to have an outlet, and that outlet is either going to come out through some semblance of normalcy in your life, which is maybe going to a basketball game or doing something like that, or it's going to come out in just crazy, bizarre behavior where you start acting crazy and strange, and you think the whole world's closing in on you, and all the stuff that we hear
Get
about.
in your bunker and
and
don't go to the mall. That's not a life.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you just need to it's important to understand what's going on in the world, but then also let it have its place.
Yes.
And like in a big mansion, you put everything in that room, and you can go in that room and tidy up and look in what's going on in that room and know that it's there. And when you want to learn more about it, it's always there for you, but you don't live in that room.
Yeah.
That room is a part of your entire house,
That's well put. You're right.
Yeah, because otherwise that room will become your house, and you just start becoming like Alex Jones,
Yeah.
going crazy.
Yeah. Or or it can go the same with health, not even just the world at large, but if you're too internal sometimes, you'll become a hypochondriac. You could have zero mold in your entire world and still believe you have a mold problem. It's like at some point you have to give over to the trust aspect of it all because we can't control anything.
Yeah, you can't.
That's the reality.
Yeah, you can't control anything.
No, you can't control the outcome, even if you did all these antifungals. If you followed the same exact, that's what I'm realizing about the show. If you follow the same exact protocol as many of these people do, you could still be the one person out of a million that it doesn't work for. Mm-hmm. You could. Totally. And that would be the most frustrating thing in the world, but that could happen, and I'm sure it has happened for people. It's like,
and maybe
it's not part of their journey.
The person, it's their journey is to find a different approach.
Well, yeah, and help a million more people,
It is weird. It is definitely weird. I find that people that are on the health journey are also on the spiritual journey, and they're also on the journey of trying to figure out how this world works and what's really going on. Like, it's all interconnected. And for me, it's that way too. It's like the health is just a conduit to spirituality, to reconnection. And the food that we eat, I think, has a direct impact on that.
I do too.
But it's like a lot of people just compartmentalize like doctors. There's a knee doctor and a toe doctor and an eye doctor and an eyebrow doctor. It's like, here's my eyebrow doctor. Like, go talk to him. It's like, here's my molar doctor.
Here's my small toe doctor.
He just deals with molars. There's another doctor that deals with your front teeth. But it's like, we're so compartmentalized in this world where, it's just, when you start eating the right food, you start on a spiritual journey, it becomes this whole thing, I think.
Yeah, you really do wake up. There's a lot of waking the sleeping giant.
Yeah. She was good, huh?
Yeah.
Erin Porter. Is that her name? Erin Porter.
She's awesome.
EatPrayGetWell.com.
It's just a great site. I love it.
EatPrayGetWell.com, episode 463. Cool. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, please pass it on to your friends. And as always, we're 100% listener supported, so we thank you for your donations on Patreon, and we thank you for buying through our Amazon link. We really appreciate that. And we thank you for your support, sharing our shows and all that good stuff. And also for your purchases in our store. We have all kinds of cool stuff in our store. So I won't belabor the point. I talk about that kind of stuff a lot at the end of the shows. So you guys know where to go. If you're interested in blenders, juicers, saunas, rebounders, all that kind of stuff, it's in our store.
And check out my blog if you're interested.
KateStelman.com.
Yep. KateStelman.com. Who knew?
.org.
I would love to share it with people. It's more of the spiritual, I'm going to be sharing my whole life, but, including my health stuff along the way, but definitely the spiritual is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
The journey of the soul.
And one other thing too, don't forget to visit our sponsors for this episode. And also, if you guys are interested in going deeper, we're developing a website right now that's a private membership exclusive online community for people that want to go deeper. And people that want to, how do I say this? What would be the correct term? People that want to operate in a private community free of government interaction, I would say. So it's a nice place to go to share stories, make friends, and to get access to two medical doctors, one former medical doctor and two naturopathic doctors of over 65 years. And we take your health questions. It's a really awesome, amazing community for you to be a part of and dive very, very deep. So that website is called Perpetual Healing, and I'll put a link on this show page. So all you got to do is remember extremehealthradio.com/463. You'll be able to check out Perpetual Healing as well as our sponsors, as well as Kate's website too, katestelman.com.
That's right.
Yeah, booyah.
Booyah.
Booyah, booyah. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Love you, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous